Dear students, after studying this module, you shall be able to learn the nature, purpose, and the manner in which focus group discussion is conducted and utilize it as a method of qualitative research. You will also be able to analyze the focus group data. Focus group discussion. A focus group is a qualitative method of data collection involving in an interview led by a moderator within a group of individuals with a shared experience, known opinion, or any other socio-demographic variable brought together to explore the facets of any issue. The size of the group is approximately 6 to 10 individuals and the interview is generally conducted for duration of 2 to 3 hours. Focus group discussion can be called as a collective conversations with a purpose. As it makes interaction possibly between the members, the primary aim of focus group discussions is to describe and understand the meaning of a specific issue from the perspective of the participants of the group. Focus group provide dynamic scenario which allows its members to construct their social reality as it stimulates discussions among people and bring it to surface responses that otherwise might lay dormant. It is particularly useful for understanding opinions and attitudes of society on controversial and taboo topics. Such discussions may enable participants to clarify their own views with regard to any pertinent issue by the virtue of engaging with others. It brings in light the commonalities and the differences in the members of the group. That is why it proves useful for exploratory researches and pilot study. It can also be used for investigation, more developed research work. The questions asked tend to be open-ended, which sparks a trail of discussion among members, thus creating a situation similar to everyday reality, minimizing the artificiality inherent to one-to-one interview. The discussion is generally audio taped to be transcribed for identifying recurring themes for the purpose of analysis. As focus group discussions incur expenses to the participants in terms of time and travel, some monetary incentive is generally given. Nature of focus group interview. According to Merton, focus group interview differs from similar others due to 4 basic features. First, the person being interviewed are known to have been involved in a particular situation, for example, read a pamphlet, taken part in a psychological experiment or a political rally, etc. Hypothetical significant elements of the situation have been content analyzed by a social scientist to arrive at a set of hypotheses that is potentially consequential to the situation. Researcher that makes an interview guide which structure the process of setting forth criteria of relevance for the data to be obtained in the interview. Finally, the interview is focused on the subjective experience of the person exposed to the pre-analyzed situation and their responses to the situation, help test the pre-formed hypothesis and formulate new ones. Now, steps in conducting the focus group discussion. Before the focus group discussion begin, the facilitator should obtain the socio-demographic information of the participants such as their age, gender, occupation, education and other pertinent information. The type of information to be gathered depends on the FGD topics. One of this is done, this sequence of steps is carried out. First, a brief introduction is given in which the purpose and the scope of the discussion are explained to the participants. Second, participants are asked to introduce themselves to the group. Then the discussion is structured around the key themes using the probe questions prepared in advance. It is important to ensure that all the participants take an active part in the discussion, which can be accomplished using variety of tactics. Points to consider while conducting FGD. Researchers generally should conduct at least 2 to 3 discussions on the same topic with different samples to ensure higher representatives of opinion. The number of discussions required varies with the research question and also depend on how many population subgroups are considered. This points to the level of subjectivity involved. which is logically expected in qualitative methods. At least 2 hours of running time should be provided. Shorter time would indicate unsatisfactory methodology. Generally, 6 to 10 members are considered to be the ideal size for a group. Too many would create chaos, inhibiting some members, and too few would minimize the range of opinions. It is better for the members to not have met prior to the meetings unless there is strong need for the case to be otherwise. Members should also be diverse in terms of various demographic variables, as this aids in obtaining the wide range of opinions. However, practical issues should also be taken into consideration. A focus group discussion guide, which broadly specifies the themes to be discussed, can be utilized. Logistical arrangements such as the invitation, transportation, venue, seating arrangement, etc. should be given due consideration. Name tags can be utilized to facilitate remembering of names if the cultural norms do not state otherwise. Refreshments can be provided as a gesture of appreciation to the participants who had taken their valuable time off. According to Dennis, focus group discussions have 3 major uses. First, pilot work for research to identify and study significant issues. Second, to collect verbal data on a specific issue which can be analyzed in many ways. This aspect of research is much debated, and recently qualitative research are showing inclination to naturalistic conversational sources. Third, to discuss and conclude the results with the people who are the subjects of the study, that is, discussion of research finding. FGD sessions. Role of the moderator. Though the discussion is generally kept flowing by participants themselves, it is important to have a researcher as the moderator for pragmatic reasons. The interview must be skilled with group both to facilitate communication and deal with problems that may arise in due course from conflicting opinions. The moderator should use various techniques to encourage respondents to debate topic and issues, to challenge opinions expressed by others, to identify area of consensus and disagreements, and to collect examples with which to illuminate concepts. Ideally, the moderator should not lead the discussion but steer it along productive lines. Formal direction is restricted to guide the goals of the participants and to amending the starting direction and closure of the group discussion. According to Flick, topical guiding also includes raising new questions and making the discussion address deeper question and extent of specific issues. Other than this, the dynamics of the conversation could vary from reflecting the interaction to using probing questions, speeding up a slow discussion, or balancing the relation of dominance of deliberately involving those participants who did not get an ample chance to speak, rather the reserved ones. The interviewer can also use visual aids such as charts, image, or text to further stimulate the discussion. In general, the interviewer should be flexible, objective, empathetic, persuasive, and a good listener, as too much of heterogeneity in the sample might prove unmanageable and chaotic. An underlying shared attribute enables researchers to mark similarity and identify potential discrepancies. The major duty of the moderator of the group are giving details about the aim and the purpose of the focus, making sure the members feel safe and comfortable and the discussion has a positive impact on the members, using some probes to bring up new debates and or to increase focus on a topic, giving all participants a chance to speak up by not letting a vocal few dominate and encouraging more participation from the more reserved members, to focus on different opinions of the members so that they are prompted to discuss the differences of the opinion, inhibiting the drifting of the discussion from the main topic of discussion. The researcher should also have the ability to appear non-judgmental and opinionated. He or she needs to be familiar with the topic, should speak the language of the participants, and also be sensitive to the cultural background of the participants. An assistant moderator can also be employed if required. Role of note taker, assistant moderator. Apart from moderator, another experimenters take field notes. This should capture information on note taking. The assistant moderator must take notes. The moderator himself should not do note making. Field notes are sometimes not interpreted immediately. One may not rely on memory of the events but rather try to take written notes with consistency and clarity. Assistant moderator can coach the participants if there are statements that eloquently express and illustrate as an important point of view. They can also write the names or just the initials of the participants following the quote. Mostly it is not possible to note whole sentence, whole or whole quote, and one can note key points and use 3 periods to denote missing part. Field notes should include the following. Key points and themes for each question are noticed by various different members of discussion. They may be mentioned only once, but it should be in a way that gets attention. When the discussion is over, the assistant can tell the members the theme for their confirmation. Follow-up question which can be asked should be written in the field notes. These are questions that are important points in the discussion of a question. These can also be requests for an example of an abstract but important topic for discussion. The assistant moderator could answer to such requests at the end of the discussion. Characteristics of the participants, themes that seem to emerge in the response to the key question, sub-themes that indicate a view held by several participants with common socio-demographic characteristics, description of participants' enthusiasm, body language and non-verbal cues by the participants that are not recorded in the tape recorder. It is not necessary if the discussion is video recorded. Overall mood of discussion, the experimenter should consider using a standardized recording form of notes. Advantages of FGD. Being in a social group situation leads to higher level of motivation than in isolated scenarios of interviews or filling up the questionnaire. Membership in a group on and of itself can be empowering as it gives voice to the participants. It is more economical compared to the qualitative interview as multiple participants are interviewed simultaneously. The USP of FGD is its dynamic nature, which allows for interaction and formation of reality for the participants. Group processes allows members to explore other point of views and clarify their own. It not only stimulates the present reality of the participant but also aids them to recall past events and formulate future opinions and attitude. Its flexibility as a method has contributed to its growing popularity. FGD can be used alone as a qualitative data collection tool or in combination with other quantitative techniques. They can be used in psychology laboratory or in the field to study social world or as an attempt to change it in a social action research. The advent of the internet technology has greatly facilitated the conduction of FGD. Virtual focus group have become popular not only in market research but also in health and social sciences. Now there are some limitations of FGD. Focus group don't represent the typical belief, attitude and ideas or opinions of the usual population as they do not utilize random sampling technique for data collection. They are expensive in terms of time and energy to organize, run and analyze the data. It requires a lot of effort in organizing for a group of strangers to assemble at a particular location on same time. Very few issues can be tackled in a session and hence only limited numbers question can be addressed. Note taking proves problematic due to the constant shift in the group dynamics. While interpreting the data, difficulty appears in the form of differences in the dynamics of the groups and problems in correlating data of different groups. Identification of individual speakers and the differentiation between statements of several parallel speakers proves difficult. As the role of researchers is minimized with respect to the direction of disclosure and the twists and turns can hardly be predicted, the data collected is comparatively less rigorous than as a directed laboratory experiment. Compared to qualitative interview, the data obtained from FGD is shallower. Social desirability might play a higher role in group scenarios, leading to suppression of honest opinion of the members. Moderator bias. Intentional or inadvertent biases from the side of moderator can greatly impact the participants' response. Personal biases of the moderator may even influence the participants to reach certain assumptions or conclusions about an idea or a product. Any group discussion, one or two outspoken members tend to dominate focus group interview. This may even lead to the manipulation of the views of the weaker members' view making the outcome extremely biased. Focus groups tend to go completely out of control while discussing sensitive and controversial issues. Now, analysis of FGD. The researcher can choose how to analyze output of the group discussion. This might be qualitative, ethnographic, or based on a systematic content analysis. The group members are not randomly selected, they are purposefully selected. The transcription is the first stage of data analysis, and a fully detailed one will facilitate the further steps of analyzing the data. This is a time consuming process and requires a lot of attention and skill. The method of analyzing the data should have been thought well before depending upon the theoretical framework and research question. The two ways of going about analyzing it is content analysis and discursive analysis. Researchers have also used thematic analysis and grounded theory for analyzing FGD data. You should therefore not limit your section to just two of these. Content analysis. Content analysis is a commonly used approach to analyzing qualitative data, which includes FGD as well. It entails coding participants' open-ended conversation into close, objective categories which summarize and systematize the data. The categories can be derived from the data itself or from the previous theoretical framework of the researcher. The main goal of this procedure is to illustrate each category by means of representative quotation from the data. One particular advantage of this method is that it allows for translation of qualitative data into quantitative one. This is achieved by means of counting the number of responses falling within each category and then summarizing the number of responses for each category. Therefore, it provides useful summary and offers an overview of the range and diversity of the participants' idea. In addition to that, it also offers easy comparison with other similar studies undertaken. The main disadvantage is that a great deal of detail is lost, which means that it could be hard to select quotations which are both representative of the categories and compelling in nature, and hence one loses a sense of naturalistic conversation of the individual participants, especially the interaction between the participant, which is an integral part of the focus group data. In addition to this, also a range of coding problem associated with content analysis in regards to with what the participants addresses to himself or to the others in conversation. In other words, it is unable to deal with inconsistency in expressed beliefs, apparent changes of opinion during the course of FGD. Discursive analysis. The discursive analysis presents the collaborative production and negotiation of ideas about the cause of any topic in discussion. It is epistemologically very different from a content analytic approach that sees ideas about a cause as internal cognition. It is also important to note that although discursive analysis has an affinity with narrative methods, from a discursive perspective, a narrated story or other contribution to a discussion is never just stand alone. Rather, it is a form of social action produced for a specific purpose, such as to amuse, inform, illustrate, or explain within the particular interactional context of a particular focus group discussion. The main advantage of undertaking a discursive analysis is that it takes the fullest possible account of social context within which the statements about any cause is made. Therefore, it does not treat such statements as unitary, static, or non-contingent, and hence it preserves both a sense of individual participants and particularly the deal of their interaction, which here becomes a central analytical concern. If video data are available, a broader analysis of the group dynamics within which particular conversations are located become a real possibility. The disadvantage of this analysis is that it does not easily permit either summary overview of a large data set or a detailed focus on the lives of individuals outside the focus group context. Only a very small sample of data can be analyzed in details. In this way, the traditional concern about the representativeness, generalizability, reliability, and validity may be difficult to counter. Important points to remember while analyzing the data of focus group. When analyzing group data, a researcher must consider the actual words spoken by the participants and the meaning of those words. A variety of words and phrases are used, and the analyst need to determine the degree of similarity between the responses. Secondly, the context is very essential, which is examined by finding the stimulus, a question raised by the moderator or a dialogue from a fellow participants, and then interpreting the speech in relevance to the environment. The comment is analyzed with the tone and the intensity of the response. Thirdly, the researcher should take note of the internal consistency. Subject of the focus group sometimes change and at times even contradict their initial stances after interacting with other participants. When there is a change in opinion, the researcher basically checks the course of discussion to find clues that could explain the shift. Another point to remember is frequency and extensiveness. Some issues are more discussed and also certain comments are made more frequently. These issues should be more important or of chief interest to members of discussions. In addition to this, the researcher must consider the intensity with which the participants talk about any particular topic. Participants often use phrases or words which shows the intensity of feeling. Intensity is often expressed in tone of voice, speed, etc., so it can be tough to notice intensity with transcripts alone. There are individual differences when it comes to expressing intensity. It can be shown in speed or excitement while speaking, or even as slowly and deliberately talking about the topic. Lastly, finding big ideas is one of the essential requisites for which a researcher must refrain from discussion in order to have an extra day for major ideas to percolate. Summary: focus group discussion, a qualitative research method involving group of people, allows for social construction of reality. The dynamic of discussions give more insights to issues which may not be evident in a single participant interview. The method was mostly used in a market research, but now it is also utilized by psychologists and other social researchers. The moderator plays an essential part in the steering the discussion to obtain purposeful data, and hence he or she should have the prerequisite skills. The data collected using the focus group method can be analyzed using content or discursive analysis depending on the researcher's need and the topic.